Okay, we are live now. So I'm starting another edition of the Hashnode Interviews, this time with the FreeCodeCamp team. And today we're going to share a few steps and a few tips of how you can get started in tech and what are the best platforms, what are the best ways for you to learn. And together with me, I have Rafael, Niel de Carla, and my big friend Danny. So, guys, just as a context, Dani Passos, DevRel lead at Hashnode. We are a publishing platform for you to learn and share your knowledge as a developer. And I would like to have like a big round of introductions here. So I'll start with Nielda.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nielda. I'm based in Brazil, and I work for FreeCodeCamp for almost a year and a half now. I'm responsible for the English for Developers curriculum that we hope to launch by the end of the year, and also the YouTube in Portuguese and the podcast in Portuguese that next month, actually this month, it's September now,
This one.
we will be launching it. Yeah, that's basically it. I'm
Nice.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me here today.
Of course. Danny.
Hello everyone. Everyone kind of knows me already. I'm Daniel Devrel at Hashnode. If you hear random background noises, it's because I've got my brother there enjoying me doing a podcast with the team of FreeCodeCamp, which is very lovely. I've spoken to Quincy also a couple of times, so it's amazing to have you guys and get to know you as well. So let's go.
And Rafa.
Hello, everyone. This is Rafael Hernandez. I'm currently leading the Spanish speaking community, translating FreeCodeCamp's curriculum and articles. I've been working for FreeCodeCamp for almost 2 years. We're about to close the third year. And I'm also host of the FreeCodeCamp podcast in Espanol. So I have also the privilege to interview developers from around the world that speak Spanish and also they speak English, but they happen to know Spanish. And so it has been fascinating to hear their stories, their journey. So I'm excited to answer any of the questions and be part of this chat. So
Nice. I think a big question that I have personally for you two, Nielda and Rafa, is how did you guys get started at Free Code Camp and how was that process for you? Whoever
Okay.
wants to go first.
ladies
Well,
first.
I just mentioned I joined FreeCodeCamp last year, and Quincy, the founder of FreeCodeCamp, was looking for an ESL teacher. ESL teacher is English as a second language, right? So someone who would teach English, but there was a catch. This person should also be familiar with FreeCodeCamp's curriculum and community. And turned out that in 2021, I had taken a boot camp, responsive web design boot camp from Class Central. And I was like, okay, I think I check all the boxes here. I apply for the position. And we booked a 20 minutes interview and we talked for 1 hour and a half. And I guess I convinced him that he could trust me to join the team. And that was it. 2 weeks later, I was working and the onboarding process was amazing. So everybody from the team was reaching out from different teams. Let's have a chat, let's have a conversation. And I felt embraced. And this sense of community was really unique. It made me so happy to say, to think, okay, I decided to join this team and they are welcoming me. This was very, very beautiful. So that's
Amazing.
it.
What kind of things did you learn even in the boot camp that you took before applying to the role?
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, so what did you learn in the boot camp? What kind of languages or what did you
Oh,
learn in tech?
it was responsive web design. So it was basically HTML and CSS. It was the first baby steps, no programming language, but the foundation of Markdown language. This was great because I knew nothing or almost nothing about it. And the teacher was amazing. She was very patient and explaining everything in details. And of course, we are following the FreeCodeCamp curriculum throughout the bootcamp. So we had the entire content from FreeCodeCamp. So I was studying through FreeCodeCamp's material. And I was
Wow.
like,
Okay.
oh, people who speak Portuguese, they need to know that, because I was studying English, and I was like, no, people from Brazil, they need to know that. I need to help to spread the word.
Wow. Wow. That's really cool and very powerful. What about you, Rafa?
Well, my experience and how I landed to work with FreeCodeCamp was actually contributing to the version 7 for FreeCodeCamp. Uh, Quincy made an announcement on the forum about the plans to create or upgrade the responsive web design version 7, where it will be based on projects, which actually, by the way, it's already live. And so he made the announcement and he listed all the projects that were uh, the idea of the plan to include for this new version. So I hopped in and I was looking for projects. I was looking to contribute at that time to open source to add to my resume. I was just barely learning programming. I was in my second year learning programming. So I needed to add that part of in my resume. At least that's what I thought I needed. And so I hopped in and picked one, which is the I think the responsive responsive piano that you might be able to see there. So that was my first project, and so I did the pull request and all that. And actually, I met one of the members of the Freako Camp, Chris, who helped me in that process of doing the pull request. I wasn't very familiar with Git and GitHub, so there was a lot of problems with my pull request. So we will spend nights trying to figure that out. And so probably it passed like a year or so, because that project, before, the first step was creating that project and then break it down into steps. And I did all that throughout probably 6, 7 months. It was not like I was doing it all the time. Um, when I jump into the second project that was not included, um, that's when Quincy reached out to me around probably a year and a half or so, just to see if I was interested in participating in translating the curriculum to Spanish. And he had done a tweet where he was just showing the idea of translating the curriculum to Spanish, and a couple of contributors have joined and to jump in and do that. So he just invited me, since I believe, I haven't verified this, but Chris most likely talked about me, how I was, I Spanish speaker, but I was also contributing. And so I started just participating in translating the documentation. But I believe it was about 3 weeks later that Quincy just, through a tweet, DM, asked me if I wanted to meet with him. And that's when he actually just offered me the job, and if I wanted to lead the translations to Spanish. So I've been, since then, just leading the translations and jumping into different phases of that translation. First, we started translating the documentation, then the curriculum, then we jump into the translation of articles, and I have been able to also use the same workflow to lead other communities, language communities like Chinese, more Japanese and Italian, Portuguese. So we have used that workflow that we use at the beginning to help them also translate Frequent Camp's resources. So that's how my little summary of my journey into Frequent Camp.
Nice, 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 nice. And for all of you, now I can get like a grasp on how you guys got everything started. And is there like anything that you're looking forward to learning next in terms of your tech career or tech stacks and so on? Like, what are your next steps in tech?
I'll go first. For me is I think I didn't. You want to go, Neil? That don't want to cut you. No, okay.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Sorry. Well, for me, that journey that I started a couple, like 4 years ago, I had to pause it, and my very interesting, the timing of everything, just for me and personally speaking, because when I started learning programming, it's because I needed to take care of my child at that time, 9 months. So I had to quit my job, So I was fully immersed into learning programming. So it was imperative for me to land a job. And so when I landed the job and it happened to be remotely, it was just the greatest thing for me, because I was able to continue work, to continue to take care for my child, and work. So as you might know, all those who have kids, it does take some time in being at home and being, that other job
For
that
sure.
you other job that requires you to care for the child. So I have paused, but I do have the opportunity to be able to participate in projects internally. Continue to I have worked just recently on another prototype for the JavaScript curriculum, music player, so hopefully it's included as well. So I haven't expensed, but I do look forward to continue my learning with React. And so I have been playing with React, and just lately the hype of Astro, and I have played with Astro a little bit. So I'm looking forward to continue, learning, and that's one of my goals this year. As my kids now are, my first child is now 6, and my second is 3. So now it's a little more free. They go to school, so right now I wouldn't be able to be here with you all, because otherwise they will be in the back. But now we have a little more time. So
Entertainment. For sure.
yes.
What about you, Nilda?
Okay, so much like Rafa, I need to balance what I need to do for Free Code Camp and also what I want to learn. And as I told you, I am managing the YouTube channel in Portuguese. And I have this motto in life, which is I learn, I create, then I share. This is
Mhm.
very important to me because it balances this part of me who enjoys learning and the other part that loves teaching. So I put both of them together. So what I'm doing right now is going over the Free Code Camp JavaScript curriculum, and I'm mapping it so I can create more tutorials for the YouTube channel. So this is one thing that I'm doing. But for this next quarter, I'd love to study more about Python and RainPy. Why? RainPy is a visual novel engine, and we have a Learn to Code RPG, not visual novel in RainPy, written in RainPy, and I'd love to have more content using it to teach English for people. So having a visual novel to do that, this would be great. But to do more advanced stuff in RainPy, because it's based on Python, I need to know more about Python. So that's what I want to do. I want to learn more about Python and learn how to apply it in RainPy to create something more sophisticated.
Amazing.
And this is one thing that I think it's important and people can think about it is when I'm learning something, can I apply it in a project? Is it useful in certain ways? Because motivation is something that fluctuates.
Mhm.
So if you have a greater goal, it's easier for you to say, okay, I'm not motivated, but I will do that. And then you build this motivation as you go.
Nice. And do you think that, let's say, by learning Python, do you go, let's say, with a free code camp curriculum, or do you build a strategy for how you're learning certain things? Or let's say you get a project and I need to learn XYZ to apply in this project. How do you go in this journey for learning something new, especially Python in this case?
That's a great question. So I like to have one unique source of knowledge to start something, because when you start learning something, this can be overwhelming. So my go-to place is FreeCodeCamp because everything is structured, it's linear. I have 1 hour a day to study. I go there and I study. And once I finish a project and I have worked some skills, for example, some concepts, I will look for some side projects, so other websites where I can play. And when I say I can play, it's really play. There are many websites where you can just play games and practice Python, JavaScript, things like that, and somehow test the skill I was studying. Because not because just because you solved a challenge, you are going. This is not a proof that you know something. So you need to build a project. So this is the second step. And another thing that I think it's valuable, and then it happens as I need, is going to the documentation. So if I have a specific problem I need to solve, I go there and try to see how other people solve. And one thing I think it's also important is getting familiar with the community that works with that language. So once I start studying Python, I will look for communities and places where people are studying Python, creating projects. That's basically the process. So one main source that will give me, it make me feel safe. So I won't be blocked, I won't freeze. Then once I build something, a baseline, then I will go and explore and get in touch with the community and learn more. That's the process.
Nice. Okay. That's really good and really kind of detailed on how you go by learning. What about you, Danny? What are you looking to learn next, and how is your process for learning new things as well?
The thing with me is I'm trying to learn too many things at once. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. So I tend to jump to the latest and newest. Now I'm trying to like calm down and focus on one thing. Lately, I've been dabbing into C++ a little bit because that used to be my first language I used to get back at uni, and I'm trying to get back into it as well. So like the core computer science curriculum, I suppose. I am trying to build a couple of apps as well, which require me to learn front end, for example, too. So lately, I have been using a lot of courses as well, and then I think a lot of beginners, what we tend to do is jump into tutorial hell. We stick there. We think that we are learning, so try to get out of those. There are a lot of things and sources you can use. FreeCodeCamp is one as well. This has been my main to-go source since I think 2014 probably. So it's been a while. It's changed a lot. It's improved a lot, and I talked to Quincy as well a couple of times. So I really believe in the whole thing as well. Me personally, I've dabbled in AI a little bit more, so kind of helps me with that as well. A lot of people are like, oh no, AI, don't use AI. You must be pro. Like, yeah, that's obvious. You should be able to put in the effort yourself 100%. Don't rely on AI, but it's obvious that AI can help us to progress faster, solve bugs faster, learn better, right? It's like supplemented to your learning. Rix is a great one by Hashnode, just saying. It's completely free. I used to use ChatGPT a lot, right? It won't get you to a Lambo anytime soon, but it will get you to a finished project, hopefully. So try Rix, for example. I've been using it a lot to get the latest documentations, so I don't need to scan them for hours. One thing I used to do a lot is read a lot, and especially if you are a beginner, it's really hard sometimes to find the relevant information back then anyway that you need to progress in. So I can just literally use the URL search function, for example, and get my information instantly. I can use the web mode as well, web search mode, which gives me all the latest and up to date. Don't need any extensions like ChatGPT does. So try Rix. It's literally a search companion for developers. So it can also act as a tutor as well for you, which is really, really good because I think a lot of people also want mentors. This is especially a thing on the tech side of things. A lot of people think that if you have a mentor, your progress will skyrocket, which is true. But again, a lot of the work needs to be done by yourself. You need to put in the hours. You need to code. You need to be part of the community. You need to be sharing your project, sharing what you're learning to help others as well. So that's the thing I think everyone should also focus on, especially as a beginner. If you are more advanced as well, there's no issues on using Rix. You can use Code Writer, for example, to help you with the latest issues, learn new things. There's so much to do. And I think if everyone like not only focuses on the community aspects and growing as a developer, because there's just so much we need to learn and so much we constantly need to be up to date with, try to learn how to use AI to your own advantage, but don't rely on it too much, because it won't build for you. It's going to supplement your learning, it's going to supplement your building. But if you are trying to become a software engineer or a developer, in the end, you need to put in the hours. You need to be part of the community, like Free Code, for example, huge community. There is everything in there. Absolutely recommended. So be sure not to do this alone. It can be a very lonely road and a very hard one because it takes 6 months. It can take 12 months. It can take a year, 2 years, right? So be sure to reach out to communities. Be sure to make friends and share whatever it is you're learning. That's that's what I would recommend. And don't be like me. Don't jump to different projects. Stick to one thing, finish it, then go on to the next one. That's the number one advice I would give developers who are trying to get into tech as well.
Nice. There is like that saying that you need to put down at least 1,000 hours to get good or great at something as well, right? Not sure if you guys have heard about this, but yes, I not tracking, but for me at least, just like Rafa, I'm also diving into React, but React Native. So lately, I've been building a lot of more mobile interfaces and trying to combine that with React Fiber and also different capabilities on how to use creative coding, 3D models, and build this type of digital experiences, and also VR or AR experiences with the combination of that. So that's what I'm getting into. And also, when I after that learn Mojo, the new programming language. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about this, but it just came out. So I want to get good at that and understand a little bit more of that and what is the purpose and how does it work. So trying to get on that into that. And yes, just like Danny, I'm also using Rix, especially for the tutoring part and how can I go from step one to step two and getting good, especially in building with React Fiber. So that has been really useful for me. And that's how I'm going through right now. And also to browse documentations because I can paste the link of a particular documentation on Rix and ask a specific question and get an answer directly based on it. So that has been my assistant lately. And okay, we have a few questions from the audience. So first one is, there are so many tech stacks nowadays. Can you clear the confusion on how to master a particular one? Who wants to take a lead on that and go first? Danny?
Yeah, so this is a very specific and a good question as well. I think for me, the way I would phrase my answer is it depends. Are you, first of all, just starting out? Are you someone who is already to put into what type of projects you're building? How well is your LinkedIn stacked up? So if you are focused on trying to land a job as soon as possible, look at the markets around the area you live in. This is something that Daniel Thompson says a lot as well, which is really true. Scout the area, the markets. Look what the job postings are. So for me, for back in Belgium, for example, a lot of the job offers used to be JavaScript and Ruby. Java, excuse me, and Ruby. If I go to Spain or London, like no one is gonna be asking for Java or like Ruby even now. So it depends on the area, and then focus on one thing and build projects. And when people say build projects, what a lot of beginners do is tend to go to a to-do app, maybe a shopping list app, weather app, all the typical stuff, which is always fine to build, but don't showcase that one. Find a problem in your life that you would be able to solve using programming. So for me, one project I built that got me into Accenture was now a to-do list, excuse me, was again a routine app. So I was tired of all the routine apps on the internet and on the app store, which always included some sort of a social share your routine. Like, I don't want to share my routine, it's private. I want to just see my routine, see my to-do list, click yes, next, that's it, right? So I made a very simple web app. I posted that one online. The reason I'm saying try to solve a problem of yours is because you will have unlimited capabilities of talking about it, how you built it, and why you built it. And that's a great thing to talk about during the technical interviews as well, because if you have just a simple to-do list, oh, I made it because someone told me to, that's not going to showcase the passion you have. That's not going to showcase the dedication and hours you put into it. So want to finalize, see what the market offers around you, focus on that. If you really don't want to and you hate Java or JavaScript or whatever, Python, try to look into the surrounding areas that offer remote jobs and focus on those languages, those frameworks, Make a good solid one project that you can really talk about, which solves a problem of yours or your friends or your families or someone on the internet. Scout Twitter, for example. Post that online and start building in public, and that will get you somewhere much faster than you probably think it would.
Amazing. What about you guys, Rafa and Yelda? You guys have a take on this?
Yeah, so actually, Danny just like wrapped a lot of concepts. I mean, that was amazing. The building project and how you how you can build a one app. And one of the guests on the podcast that I believe it's a very important way to take on the building project is that the concept is not necessarily or shouldn't be for you to showcase necessarily what you're building or what you're learning, but it's more of a having a log of your progress where you have a, so if you're not interested on posting it on Twitter or Instagram or anything where anyone can just see it, but you want to have it for your own, you can always, just record your progress, record what you've been doing, and you'll be able to see how far you have gone. So obviously, the building project is great because not only you'll be able to see your progress, but you will be able to get that feedback. And I think one concept idea or a way to explain building in public is like if I want to learn play guitar, which I do want to play guitar, but if I start playing in private and I only showcase when I actually achieve to play a tune, that would be great. But if I do go in the park and I start practicing, I'm sure I'm gonna get tips from the public. I'm gonna get, oh, you should try this, you should try that. And when I do achieve to learn a tune, I'm sure some people are gonna celebrate with me. Some people are gonna just encourage me to keep going. So now I'm gonna have a community who are just excited for me, right? That I just learn a tune and perhaps looking forward for me to learn something else and get further in there. And I think that's one of the a lot of the gains that you can do have by just building in public, not just have a record, not just showcasing, but also build a community along that go along with you. And obviously there's going to be people who are not going to be so nice in the critics, but you should be able to take it with a grain of salt and know that it will build you. So there's a lot of things that I think is beneficial for building in public, and yes, another thing that Danny mentioned is that if you are going to build a project and you want to include in your portfolio, please don't add the ones you follow in FreeCodeCamp or any tutorial. Those are going to be the same from many people. So one of the things I do recommend when I have been asked this question is um, l- all the things that you learn in FreeCodeCamp, the reasons we have those projects is for you to practice the skills, the concepts that you have gone through the FreeCodeCamp. So once you do that, you have those skills that you can actually apply it to another project. And perhaps you want to just build one project alone. So if you go through and build the form and then the tribute and then the portfolio, all those can keep going and build on top of each other. And so you can probably just pick one project for yourself for fun, whether that's a habit tracking or those who lift weights, probably just tracking your gains and your and repetitions. So all those skills that you can learn in any other course or in FreeCodeCamp, you keep adding piece by piece. And so that will be a perfect project to add. I don't think it's the amount of projects you have in your portfolio that will be attractive for a future employee. It will be the applications or the projects that you actually can showcase your skills and you can talk about it clearly, how you got to the decisions you did or include the pieces you included. So it can be just two robust applications or apps that will speak for the employer to offer their job. So I think there's a lot in the beginner can take on building a project. It's going to be a long run. it's not going to be a short, so just I guess having fun in the process will be the best thing to uh, you know those are the things I think it will be important for a beginner.
I fully agree on that. And even in terms of building in public, for me personally, that's really important because the more I like to always say, and I was talking to Danny about this earlier today, if you learn about something once and you explain it to someone, you're kind of like learning twice and strengthening your learning. So for me, that's really important. And also in terms of finding people who are also going through the same process as you and can kind of build that net and that network of people that can move and learn together. And even on Hashnode's perspective, I believe like by learning something, explaining a particular concept, even to yourself in a blog post that will get published and more people will be able to find it and benefit from it, that will be really positive for you and also for your career and authority in the long term run. So that's really positive, and I truly believe on that. And I've always kind of tried to be that person that's always trying to learn, but also share, especially on Twitter or LinkedIn, a few different particular concepts or a few different particular new tech stacks and so on, and also try to build different stuff to try out and see if I can facilitate someone's process when learning, even if that's not for my portfolio, but just to potentially help someone along the way. And yes, to add from my side as well on how to master a particular one, I think for me, it very much depends not necessarily on the market, but what do you want to build? Do you want to be a mobile developer? Do you want to be a front end developer, back end developer? So depending on what you like to do and see most, then you need to see like, okay, for being a mobile developer, I have Swift, I have React Native, I have different types of stacks, Flutter, and so on. So let me choose which one I relate to the most and what makes more sense in terms of the market, because depending on how you can understand the concepts behind it, then you can go from that one to master different tech stacks as well, because liking or not, they are similar in many ways. Kind of just, for example, JavaScript and Python, you can see many similarities just in terms of how particular code snippets are different or are built. So if you master one and then you move to a second one, you can kind of like easily make that transition. So it depends very much so on what you want to build, what type of products you want to be involved with, or what type of startups even. So for me, that's really important, and kind of like hope this sheds a light on you. Neil, that do you want to add to this?
Yeah, sure. The three of you covered pretty much everything. I wanted to mention this part of the confusion on how to master things and the importance of sharing, because sometimes we keep to ourselves what we are doing. And I know sometimes it's hard to share, but how you're going to know if you really master something if you're not sharing and letting people give you
True.
feedback so you can improve? So I know it can be challenging according to our personality to share this, but this is an important step, because when you are working for a company, you have to share your code. People have to see it. So it's important to do that. So one step on how to master a particular language, knowing if you master it, is letting the community see what you did and letting them give you feedback so you can learn from it and keep improving, because mastery is not something that actually you just achieve. You need to maintain. You need to be always studying and improving. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Even with that, another question. Do I need to be pushing code every day to GitHub? Because some developers tell that you don't need to push everything. Make two projects and just push those. Which route should I choose? I think this is very much aligned with what you were saying, Rafa and Danny. You want to take a stab on this?
I think it depends. I think that's almost the answer for a lot of a lot of the things. It depends. If you're in the beginning, I do recommend pushing, and it might not be a big change. Probably you documenting your process, even learning. If you're not into blogging, or you don't want to build the blog, although Hashtag will be very easy to jump in. Um, but if you would just want to add notes to it, just use it. You get familiar with it. There's going to be a point where you're going to be most likely using Git and GitHub constantly. So at the beginning, it doesn't really matter what you're pushing, just getting familiar. So that will be for the beginning journey of a developer who's learning. But later on, I think, and if you're working, you might find developers not necessarily pushing all the time. They probably spend more time reviewing code and pull requests, and so that's another facet of GitHub, where you can know how to review a pull request, how to navigate yourself and GitHub, and flag and document all that stuff. So I think it depends what your role is, if or what part of your journey you are in it. So I'm sure it's more important for those who want to showcase and have the green squares, in some way or form, and showcase for the future employer. But in reality, if you push a lot and it's not high quality, it's not well documented, you're not doing yourself a favor if that's what you're looking for, because they're going to see through all the code, and it's not necessarily just the green squares they're going to look into. They're going to look what quality of contributions you're doing, or what the quality of your code. But if you're in the stage where you can push quality, you have some way of form knowledge how to use GitHub and track it in versions and all that, then I'm sure it's going to be important for you to push and showcase. That's kind of like our portfolio in some way or form for those who just to showcase our code. So yeah, it depends. The answer, in addition to what I said.
I have to say that I am obsessed with pushing code to GitHub. So I try to push as much as I can. And if I'm learning about like a different project or building something new, I immediately put it there, because even if I stop building that, I'm kind of like sick of it, don't want to do it anymore. I can come back to it later on because I have the repo, and I can also see like a track, and there's a history, right, of what you have been building. So I like seeing that, like, okay, for example, at times I go to Hashnode and want to write about some new project so I can relate to that and kind of like connect the code and explain what I've done. So for me, that's really important. And it's a way for me to keep track, like you said, uh, around what I'm building and what I'm learning as well, and where I'm having bugs. So I like doing that. I see that's valuable. I love seeing the green squares there. Um, so I try pushing code at least once, or sometimes up to 3, 4 times a week, especially if I'm building something new, to keep everything updated. Uh, so for me personally, that's important, and I like seeing my journey when I'm building something. What about you, Danny and Nilda?
I think we don't like to hear that, but it depends. We are going to build this sense of judgment to know what's the best for us, right? So I know there are a lot of people that say you need to push every day. Other people are going to say, oh, just if it's important. But it also depends, just like you two mentioned, the point you are on your development as a programmer. For example, at the beginning, you're not familiar with Git and GitHub. Okay, I think you should push every day so you get familiar with that. The more, the better,
Absolutely.
the merrier. And if you make mistakes, it's okay. It's super okay, because you are making mistakes and you are learning from it. And as the time will pass and you're going to understand better, you can start understanding, I did something wrong. I should do this instead. And then you're going to find your style. You might be just like Danny and push every day or not. It depends. So that's it.
Danny, you are code
Um,
push addicted, or how are you on that?
Push every day, all day. Just code, do nothing else. Code, code, code. That's all you need to do. Nothing else. Forget going out. You don't have friends. You have your code editor. That's it.
You gotta
Okay.
push.
For legal reasons, that was a joke. Before everyone takes that seriously. Again, like everyone already mentioned, it depends, right? Back then, a lot of people push every day. Now it's more of a, I think, more of a terms of in terms of pushing. Where are you in your journey of learning how to code, or are you experienced already? Because someone who is experienced and knows how to do things won't be pushing as much. They will be only pushing a little bit to major projects most of the time, not always. But if you are a beginner, it is nice to see those green lines. It is a motivating factor for sure. Just be careful not to be obsessed by it, because people who work in tech, and if you are getting hired and you're speaking to a technical manager, for example, they will understand that you don't need to have a green line every day, because you can literally change a README and that will be a green dot, right? So make sure the changes and pushes are significant and important to you. So if you want it just purely out of motivation, great, push every day. If you want to push once a week because you have a larger project going on or you have a lot of massive changes, also great, push once every week. Just don't obsess over it, and make a game plan of why you should be pushing. And I wouldn't even focus on the pushing. I would more focus on actually building, like everyone already mentioned, because that's more important. So make your own kind of choices on why you need to do this, and then just go with those. There's no right or wrong here. It's just of a matter of perspective and a matter of what is your end goal. It's simple as that.
Nice. Now, continue pointing the question to you, D2. What do you think are the most important or first tools that are beginning a person joining tech and starting the career and starting the journey should learn first?
Okay, so no, Danny, go, Danny. I want to see you doing that.
No, no.
No, the shade personality is nothing. No, go ahead. I'll go right after you.
Sometimes I'm too serious. I like you because you know I feel like okay, let me relax a little. I think IDEs, just like VS Code, they are very important at the beginning. Everything is scary at the beginning, so keep it simple. IDEs, just like VS Code. Then next, Git and GitHub and the command line. I think they are important. They are great for the beginning. I would say these three, which by themselves are a lot. So to keep it short, those three would be great.
For sure. For sure. You want to go
I
next?
do agree. The three of them, but I will add to that. Really explore how to use those. There's VS Code himself is just so powerful. There's a lot of things you can do in VS Code. So not just download it and use it for coding. There's a lot of things you can do. Terminal, this the same thing. Now there's a couple Warp, I believe is the name. And so there's very good tools that will not just function the normal way, but there's a lot of extensions, a lot of things to make your life easier. So I think just utilizing the tools more and learn how to use those. And it's at the beginning when I used to lesson that programmers don't like, or some programmers don't like to use the mouse, but just be more you know uh, shortcuts and keys. That I thought it was funny, but it does affect 1 second, one click. It's just when you're in the zone, a mouse probably can be annoying. So I just utilize it, just have fun in the process. It might take a couple of minutes, hours, I don't know, a couple steps for you to install the extension. I just learned a little bit about hyperkey and how to add that hyperkey, because that you can't find so many shortcuts combinations to open your apps or do certain things or snippets. So
I love
just
that.
yeah, so just learn and have fun. Give yourself a break. And for me, the break is finding something else, another tool to make sure that you can do things quicker. I started with Alfred app, and now I just write cast. So to be able to just do things very quick in templates. There's a lot of things that we repeat a lot. So um, I would say those tools will make at the beginning will just be fun per se, but it does affect also in your everyday when you start working on the team. Because believe me, there's a lot of tools that we use, and that it's just that we need to make our job much smooth, because there's a lot of tedious stuff that we do that it's just repetitive, and you take that time to invest and learn this. You're not going to spend so much time to do those tedious stuff like finding a snippet. Oh, I did this before, where is it? So that's going to take a little bit of less friction if you know where to find it and how to trigger that shortcut to paste the snippet. So I would say the same what Nialdo is, just explore more how to use those tools and you'll have fun.
Nice.
Uh, hotkeys, shortcuts, touch type. I think I totally agree.
A whole new language itself. What about you, Danny?
Use Vim. Don't exit Vim. Become a professional rockstar developer. You don't need anything else. Now that the joke is off,
Oh my
a lot
god.
of great points. I think Carla mentioned this earlier. Motivation will be fleeting. It will pass. You will start to realize that a lot of these things, especially learning how to develop, is not easy. It requires a new framework of thinking, critical thinking. It requires a new way of learning as well, and that means you have a lot of things to catch up on. So touch tapping is one, for example, which I would recommend every developer to learn touch tapping as number one, because same as writers, we are doing a creative outlet from our brain and logical, and to minimize the bandwidth, so to speak, and not to slow us down, touch typing, like Rafa mentioned, shortcuts, huge thing. You don't need Vim, but learn the shortcuts, have fun in it, learn one or two that you use a lot, learn those touch typing shortcuts. Check out a couple of tools as well. VS Code is one. There's others there. There's plenty of those, but focus on one that's widely used. The reason I'm saying this is because that means the community will be large. That means if you have questions or you're stuck somewhere, it's gonna be much easier for you to get back on track by asking questions, for example, right? Um, Learn one thing at a time, which was a huge thing and hard for me to do, because there's just so much we can be distracted with. There's a framework every new second coming out. There's a new exciting language, new exciting tool. I think, like Rafa mentioned, I used to use Alfred a lot, and now it's Raycast. Was it that's now the hype going around? So you see what I mean. Same with AI, ChatGPT last year, Rix this year. Learn all these tools, but don't forget to have fun and don't to forget to take breaks, because it's gonna be a long-term journey. Don't listen to the influencers who mention you can get a six-figure land a six-figure job at Fang. That's those times are passé. The boat has sailed. It's never 3 months. It's a long process. So make sure to take the time, take the breaks, and make it a healthy journey that you can look back on in a year, let's say, and you can be proud of, rather than trying to rush this in 3 months and land somewhere, which is not gonna help. So tools, touch typing, shortcuts, everything that's kind of gonna help you, taking frequent breaks, making sure your sleep is on point, joining communities, go to FreeCodeCamp, for example, share your learnings, go to Hashnode blog as well, share with others, use Rigs to supplement your developer journey as well. There's just so much, and find the tools that work for you and stick to them before going into something else, because this is just like sports. If you jump around, it's like trying to learn football and then basketball the next week and then playing the violin and then the piano. It's not gonna work. Focus on one thing and slowly progress with those. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Question from the audience. Which one should I go? Like, how should I go and land my first job in tech? It's a great question. Very broad, though, but great question. Go ahead, glasses man.
Right. There's a lot of opinion on this from a lot of people. I think the best way to go now in the current landscape is build in public, like Ralph already mentioned, and all of us build in public, share your things, because that increases your chances by so many multitudes of being noticed, you learning, getting feedback. Don't try to hide your projects or your ideas. Ideas are plentiful, the executions are not. Grow a community, start a Discord or join a Discord. We don't need another Discord actually. Be involved, help others out. Just because you're a beginner does not mean you cannot share your learnings. There's a lot of high level programmers sharing those things that are not for beginners. But as a beginner, you have those insights that could help other beginners. For example, landing a job, it's just so broad. I landed my jobs through Twitter. My 3 last jobs were through Twitter. 5 jobs before that were LinkedIn, and other were before that through Meetup. So the landscape always changes. Back in 2010, You would go to meetups, to your local meetups about JavaScript, whatever. You would land a job. After that, it switched to LinkedIn. Now it's like Twitter. So there is always a platform and a way where you can share and learn things and meet people, where those connections and that network will land you your job. So I think number one aspect would be focus on networking, and don't think of networking as you need to put on a suit, go shake hands. No, just be relaxed, be yourself. Even like during this live stream, for example, I put on these glasses, I joke around. Make sure people know who you are as a person and how your character is, because that's the best way to find the fit for your team, for yourself, for the company, and also people will like you for who you are. They can start recommending you your work, or maybe a friend you meet at a Twitter live space has a friend who has a company who needs a developer. Just like that. Boom, next week you have an interview, 2 weeks later you land a job. So focus on community and networking and pushing out your projects using build in public. That's those three things are the things I would focus on right now.
Would you
Totally,
guys agree? Go
totally
ahead.
agree. Who's going first? I
Go
hear.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, totally agree. One of the things that another benefit of building in public is that you will have something that will stand out. If you apply to a job, most likely you will stand out as the person who has perhaps blog posts, perhaps another form that I have interview a guest that started by streaming on Twitch and just learning programming. They went through FreeCodeCamp and learned in the process. They were not showcasing themselves as the expert, but as someone who was learning in public. And now it has a lot of followers, so you will build this network where people will know how far you have gone, and so you will stand out. And so how long it would take for you to land a job, it will vary, but it definitely will help to keep track of your progress, whether that's in Twitch, a blog post, or in Twitter, any form of way. You will be able to use that as a different take on your journey. You will stand out basically, and and definitely that how I landed my job, and now as I hear from Danny through Twitter, is just because someone just pay attention in your journey. I also interviewed someone else that were trying to get into debt rails, and that's the same way they landed. It's just being that person who was creating content and YouTube, creating tweets, participating in Twitter Spaces. So you just become that person that they see all the time, and they can get familiar with you. And then most likely they just they like your personality. It's very hard to put your personality on a resume, or just applying for a job. But if they can see through video, through the way you display yourself and or talk in Twitter Space, that's an additional, an extra thing that will help you land a job wherever it is and how long it takes. So yeah, just to add a little bit on that.
Nielda?
Being part of a community and helping other people is also a good way to approach. Uh, there is this concept of networking, but there is also, I heard from a person I interviewed, that's net living, that is connecting to people and making connections. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. I like that. And companies, they are made of people, and people, they connect. So of course you can be the person who is being helped, but you can also help people. I'm just building on what Danny and Rafa already said, because I don't need to repeat. So just consider that I'm adding one more information, so you can offer your help, and this way you can show how you can work in a team, and you can contribute, you can empathize, you can solve problems. This can be also an approach. And remember that it's very hard to talk to a person that works in programming and they won't mention community. I had like 10 interviews so far, and every single person mentioned the importance of community. So if everyone is mentioning that, it's because it's really important. So do not ignore the power of connecting to other people. And on your own way, you don't need to help people creating videos or podcasts. You can just go there and comment, reply to their questions. This can be helpful.
Absolutely. I think even from my perspective, just kind of like encompassing everything that you guys have said and adding to it, if you are a front end developer, building a front end portfolio, like a really cool website for your portfolio, it's a must. So it's definitely something that will differentiate yourself when you are shipping your resume or your portfolio, or kind of like combining the two of those and sending a URL to your potential employer. It's definitely something that will make you stand out, and same for other areas of development, especially. So if you can make yourself stand out even before you get to connect with someone, before you get to explain your projects, how you think, that's already like a big step up that will make sure that you are like, okay, this candidate is 10 out of 10. We need to consider this one a little bit more, go further with this person. So for me, that's really important and something I always focused on from when I started my journey in tech. So it's something I would like to shed a light to because I believe that's really important. One more question. After learning with Free Code Camp, so that's for you guys, what do you use or recommend using to preparing for coding interviews?
I'll speak first, Rafa, because after you can speak more. Okay, so we have this part of the curriculum where you can go and practice some challenges. So this is a way to go, and once you have done that, there are websites. I don't recall their names right now, but you can watch mock interviews. You can book an interview with other people to practice. So these are ways I think you can prepare, like try to understand what are the positions you're going to apply, what is expected from that position, and practice those skills that you're going to have during technical interviews. So this was my short answer. Then now Rafael can give the longer answer.
Go
I'm so
ahead.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. Well,
Just kidding.
it's okay. It's okay. There's a lot of applications that will help you to do the coding, prepare for an interview. But I will say, and I'm sure everyone is familiar with Leak Code and Code Wars and all those applications that will help you with that part of the technical interview. But there's one part which is probably the hardest for everyone, is how to explain, how to talk in a simple and clear way your thinking process. If you're answering a question, or you're explaining how you develop this application, that part is a little bit harder. So, um, my one of the guests is his name is Gonzi, and is an Argentinian. So he prepared, when his Discord, he just set up some fake interviews, and there was different channels where there was someone interviewing a fictitious, someone who applied for a job. So they would go into this channel and they will go through several questions. So I think if you find that community or that project, or someone who's creating these fictitious interviews, that will help you to feel comfortable in talking, because that's the hardest part of, if you have never talk out loud your thinking process. And so I think that's one area also that you need to prepare, where you are comfortable and you're more articulate on in what you're saying. As for me, I need a lot of practice. So that's another part of the interview that I think is not so much talked about, because everyone practice the lead code and code words, but also just talking to someone. If find someone that you can explain your thinking process. Don't have. I don't think there is an application. If there is an application or website where you can practice this or pair with someone, that would be great. But I only have heard it on communities who have set this up, organized, and some have done it with actual companies who have come and just interview, and someone have landed some job just because their interview was great. So I think that's important, and to practice that part of it, not only the technical.
I would say, even answering your question, Rafa, Google just launched and released a new tool for you to practice for tech interviews, and not only tech interviews, but interviews in general from different areas. So I recommend using that. And together with that, even going deeper in the explaining code and explaining code snippets, because as a developer, that's something you will have to do at some point in your interviewing stage. So even on Hashnode's perspective, like get a code piece, like a file that you're building on top of, go in each one of the lines and kind of comment those lines and explain them through a Hashnode blog post. I think that's really valuable because you're putting out in your words and simplify some type of context and giving context to what you're typing and what you're writing in terms of code. So that's really powerful and a way for you to strengthen the way that you're thinking and bring logic into it. So I think that's really great. Also, recording videos, putting videos out on YouTube, putting them on Twitter, being part of communities, and also sharing those there to get feedback from the community. So again, to nail the eldest point about mentioning the community 1,000 times, and that's something that I have done with my chat with her personally, and I recognize that. But yes, like being part of a community and actually getting to share that to someone and share a light, bring logic, make someone understand how you're thinking about something and why you're thinking in this certain process in a certain way, it's really impactful. Danny, what is your take on this? How do you prepare for coding interviews?
Um, Great points, everyone. Already, I think there's plenty of resources that if you have been in the development field for more than 1 microsecond, you have heard of. Um, Lead Code, Need Code, Blind, 75, interviewer.io. There's just a whole list. You can check the list at roadmap.sh. They have a whole list of resources. I would pick one of those, and also I would first go and see what the companies you are trying to apply to have in styles of interview style. So go to their LinkedIn's, maybe check out the people that are working there, find them on Twitter, maybe have a conversation with them. Don't just DM people, hey, and then that's it. Tell them you're interested in a job potentially there. Ask them how the day goes. Maybe have a short coffee chat. That's the way I approach things, because that gives you a better perspective of what type of interview style of questions they do. Maybe it's only behavioral. Maybe they will give you a home project, it's called, something like that. Maybe they will give you lead code hard style questions as well. There's a lot of platforms. FreeCodeCamp has JavaScript, data structures and algorithms course as well. For example, you can use that. You can use RICS to supplement your learning. You can go to lead code. I would personally first talk to the people in the company and take the human approach, because that has prevented, or that has given me the opportunity not to do any lead code style questions in the past 10 years. I think I've done one, and that was FizzBuzz. Also, I failed that one. Fun fact. So now I know how to FizzBuzz. That's okay. Now I'm a rock star developer. Give me lead code hard style questions. Easy GG. But always try to approach the company first, scout them on LinkedIn, talk to the people, see if they're maybe interested in having a short conversation, and in that way you will never know what comes next. But after that, if you are sure that they will be asking you technical questions, go to FreeCodeCamp. I would personally suggest using Blind 75 in combination with RICS, because if you don't understand something, RICS can explain it to you. Blind 75, just Google it. It's literally a list of top 75 questions asked on lead code. But the thing now also is that Google and other larger companies have literally stated they will be moving away from lead code style questions, because they have finally figured out that it's not the yeah, I know, they have finally figured out that it's not the way to actually put on the metrics on whether the developer is good or not, because you can just like with a lot of these trick style questions, you can learn how to play the game. And if you play the game well, you get in, and then they find out that you're maybe not a good developer. So I wouldn't focus as much on technical interview style and more on projects and the whole repeated communities and talking to the people in the companies. That has helped me, and this advice I've given to everyone I know. All my friends in tech have landed jobs using communication style communication. So they go to the people, they talk to them, etc.
Okay. Okay. Those were great answers. I have one very last question for you guys, which is how do you recommend people, developers, and general tech enthusiasts to stay updated with the latest news and trends in tech?
My opinion, I think is only if you're excited about. I don't not if it becomes a need, you're gonna be overwhelming. It's gonna be overwhelming. I mean, I'm sure you if you there's something new in Angular, but you have nothing to do with Angular, you're not going to be interested in it. But if it's going to be building or helping your team in your current job, or if you're not familiar with shortcuts or how to use this, applications that will make your life easy and tedious stuff, I'm sure you need to learn it. Because it will help you. In my opinion, there's a lot of things that comes out, and I don't have the time for it. I think it's much easier for if you don't have the time and you're busy, you have priorities, family and stuff. But those who do have the time, I'm sure they will come to a point that you probably be tired of experimenting with everything, but it's fun. Programming is fun. And especially if there's something calling your attention, I'm sure there will be fun for you to just derail a little bit and explore how to use Astro, build your portfolio again for the seventh time. It's so I think it's the part that we that I mentioned a lot is fun, just because that's how I take it. I like programming, and sometimes what we don't like is the struggle, but that's us actually sometimes what takes us back to programming or build something, because we love the struggle. We like the well, at least me. Maybe it's only me. But if I there's something I can't build, I'll just keep trying, and if I can figure it out, I'm sure I will ask. And depending on your team, maybe in my team, as I have been in FreeCodeCamp for these 2 years, almost three, I have the opportunity to be able to participate in something else other than translating to Spanish, or in the podcast I have been able to contribute to the JavaScript certification by building a project, and that was very fun. It's a music player. I learned in the process, and so if you have the chance to do that and learn in the process something, a new thing, take advantage of it. But as outside from work, I think it's just making sure that it doesn't take all your time, and something that's still fun. That's just my opinion, but I don't think you need to keep with all the trend. It will go away for sure.
Well,
It's some of the things just
right? It would be too much. I remember even when AI came up, was just like a lot of things about AGI and all that, and kind of like a lot of buzz, and it was absolutely overwhelming. So you need to choose what you want to stay in touch with. Danny, what do you think?
There is just a plethora of sources you can use. There's just so many. I would go to Hashnodes. Obviously, there's also FreeCodeCamp. There's Hashnodes. We have a new feed style as well, where you can use tags. For example, if you're interested in only JavaScript news, you can use that tag to get JavaScript news. And also, I would make sure that if you want to stay up to date with the latest, that you don't overdo it. And the reason I say this is because if you're always up to date with the latest in everything, you'll have decision fatigue, you'll be overwhelmed instead of trying to focus on one thing at once, right? But go to Hashnotes. We have a lot of the latest. We have blog posts, we have the latest feeds, there's tags as well, there's a whole community, same as with FreeCodeCamp as well. So make sure to be active there, but just please don't overdo it, because a lot of people that get into tech get overwhelmed with all the choices, and then they get stuck and there's no progress, and people can get frustrated with that. So be careful where you get your sources as well. Just take it easy. There's a lot. Twitter as well. Twitter is also something you can use with the latest trending tags, for example, too. So Hashnode, FreeCodeCamp, Twitter. I would focus on those for now.
Rafa, you said you had another rack.
Yes. one of the things that I do lately, just because I'm trying to learn React more, get in depth, it's just there. Usually, these frameworks or tools will have a blog, that will have a newsletter. So, if you're very interested and you want to be up to date in that specific tool or framework that you're interested, just sign up and get the latest information. So that way you don't just go look around. There's also developers who are the one pushing probably a feature on CSS, or they're usually creating content very up to date. Maybe follow those that you'll be interested to hear from them first, and maybe they create content there that they're exploding in beta and they're testing those features. So there's those are the little things that probably you're very interested in that framework and you want to be up to date. Those are the things I recommend to do that would help you be up to date, and because you're very interested in it, and maybe also that's the tool that you use at work.
Absolutely. Nee, do you have something to add?
Yes. So, a lot of things everyone mentioned. So, big responsibility, be the last one speaking. But we have limited time, and we need to balance this with our work and our personal lives and our studies. We are going to keep studying forever. And we have this challenge, how to stay up to date with the latest trends. And I would say organize your routine in a way that when you have this part that you are studying, you have a smaller part that is related to something that you want to keep updated to. So you can subscribe to newsletters that you like, and maybe you can receive them once a week, once a month, but you're not going to be opening them every single day. Just save a specific moment on your week and go there and study, and know that you're doing that on purpose, deliberately to study. And if at some point you're not interested anymore, just unsubscribe. Okay, so try to control this because you have information all the time coming at your direction. So, for example, organize a moment on your week that you're going to go and read the blogs on Hashnode. Or, for example, once or twice a year, I want to go to this event. So organize and make yourself present there. This can be helpful. So instead of just being desperate of understanding everything, we can just treat our brain and our energy as something precious, and we deliberately choose what we want to let in. And it's okay to change our mind about it. The same happens for social media. So choose wisely people you are going to follow. And there are different medias you can access and use. So, for example, if you like videos, you can find YouTube channels that you like, that you can stay up to date. If you prefer reading, you can go to Hashnode, you can subscribe to newsletters. If you like listening, you can go to the podcasts and things like that. So, understand what's the media that you like, establish a period you want, and just accept this. You can do everything. So that's my opinion.
Okay, okay. All very great points, guys. So I think we are almost 15 minutes over time here. I apologize for that, but the conversation flowed way too good. So I'm gonna close the space. And yes, I really would like to thank you guys, Rafa and Yelde, for being here with us today. Really appreciate you guys and all the insights that you guys came up and shared. It was really valuable. And thank you all for also coming in, watching us, and also asking great questions. We really appreciate that. And it was a great time being here with you guys today and also presenting this new edition of the Hashnode Interviews. Thanks, guys.
I don't have one. Oh no.
Danny, bring it.
There we go.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Danny, for the
Ciao.
invitation. It was great.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you
gonna
for
close
being
up
here,
the
guys. Bye bye.
stage and end the
Bye.
stream. So thanks again.